Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on our live guided tour. C'est bon? We are on Omaha Beach, and actually we are on the western end of the positions where the museum we're going to describe in a minute is very, very interesting. So what you see here is one of those individual bunkers which were mass produced. In the continuity of the bunker, you can see a series of tetrahedrons. Now, we always talk about the 88 anti-aircraft, but when they were shooting at night, they need to have those anti-aircraft projectors you've got here. They have a tremendous range. Talking about the individual positions, you've got also the armored bell for several machine guns straight ahead. French Navy guns. It's got an incredible item named an Enigma machine. An Enigma you can see, you can barely touch, which is absolutely phenomenal. And then, now, since this year, in the old city hall you've got here, they start to use VR projections. It's a 3D movie about Omaha Beach, which I highly recommend. Voilà. We are now on the western end of Omaha. We are on Charlie. Charlie, this is where the 5th Ranger started to land. And they landed right there when they start to climb up the cliff we've got here. They didn't really have the climbing equipment, so they were using their daggers to climb up. And then after they had the famous Ranger lead the way by General Coda, they went around the bluff you've got here, and they finally were in position to attack the German WNs, which are located right behind the house you can see here in the hotel casino. Actually on the sector of Dog Green. The bunker we've just zoomed in is the only bunker where you still have an 88 inside, just under the National Guard Memorial. And if you remember the movie The Longest Day, from the bunker to the black van to the left, this is where you had the anti-tank wall, which was destroyed. Now, if you look on this little map we've got here, we are now at the junction from Charlie and Dog Green. This is the town of Vierville. What you see here is one of the famous amphibious tanks, the DD-4, as you can see with the insufflated skirt. So we are now on Dog White again, And this is the importance of the house you've got here. So you can also see all the way up, and you still see today, all the trenches and all the bunkers which were integrated into the bluff. Dog Red. This marker is the first American temporary cemetery. If you watch our early videos about the American cemetery in the A, B, and C, you're gonna get all the details about those cemeteries, temporary and permanent cemeteries. So we are actually just about here on this map, and now we're gonna drive to the junction of Easy Red and Dog Red and Easy Green. Sorry about that. This junction is very important because towards our right, towards the west, is where the 29th Division landed. And now, towards the east, is where the Big Red One landed.
Recommence.
So now we are right at the junctions between Dog Red and Easy Green. So if you look on the map here, this is the left bluff, the beach exit, and the right bluff, which is straight ahead of us. You see the roundabout with a little arrow, the white arrow in a blue circle? This is the road which goes to the main road. So this is the exit, which is referred here. So now, when we come to the Easy Green, this is the side we've got on our left. We are at the Musée Memorial of Omaha Beach, which is a very interesting display. A lot of things to see, a lot of scenes inside, and pretty nice tank you've got here, which is one of the second age model. As you can see, it's not bolted anymore, but it's welded. And maybe the most interesting part of the collection is the long tom you've got here. The long tom, which is actually the update of the guns which were used at Pointe du Hoc, the French GPF model 1917, which General Pershing requested to take back home. And in the United States, from the French model, they developed the long-range field artillery, which was one of the most favorite toy of General Patton. Now, if you really want a good place for lunch or evening dinner, and believe me, having dinner here and then walk on the beach with a glass of beer, it's really something to do. They also have hotels, as you can see here, all those bedrooms, and that's the place for lunch. Outside, they have a great garden where the kids enjoy to play. So from the NCDU Memorial, we have a direct access to the beach. So now we are on Easy Red. I'm getting better now. So Easy Red is one of the most important spots. First of all, the memorial you've got here is dedicated to the NCDU, today known as the Navy SEALs. A little further up, there is the bunker. And now if you look very, very carefully here, this is the famous beach exit we've got on this page. Look at the map. And looking on the following map, we can clearly see the little road which is going up. Actually, it's eventually better to see this way to understand better. But this is one of the exits again. For further details, do not miss our other videos. This is more like a generic information. And then, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a traveling on the pictures of the NCDU. You see the scout. When they participated to D-Day, they were eventually on kayakis. Some of them arrived a day, eventually on Utah 2 days before D-Day. And then you see all the different obstacles. The Germans are everywhere. The Czech hedgehogs, the tetraheaders, the progressions of the NCDUs to become the very well-known Navy SEALs. There is a good map here which shows about the beach obstacles again. So now it's easy to understand why it was impossible to land at high tide or low tide. See the obstacles you've got here. Read that. And the living beach here is a reminder of all the places the Navy SEALs participated, so from all over the world. We are now talking about an amazing museum about vehicles. This is one of the top 10 museums in Europe about military vehicles back to World War II. It originated from the collection, the early collection of Mr. Ledoux, which goes back to World War II. It started his collection, he was about 18 years old. He started to collect all kinds of tanks and jeeps and trucks and half-tracks, Germans and Americans and British. If you look at the top here, we've got one of the very famous V1. And the most important and interesting thing in the museum, beside the vehicle, if you want to buy a book, this is the only museum in entire Normandy who has such a variety of books, from the very, very cheap one to the most expensive books you've got here. So we are now on Fox Green, and Fox Red is at the end of Omaha. So this is the eastern end of Omaha. Fox Green, Fox Red are the two last sectors. Now, if you remember watching our video about WN62 with Franz Gogol and Hans Sutherland, this is their positions all the way up to the top. And you can see the Special Engineer Brigade Memorial to the right. And then it's a little too far out, but this is where we've got the Big Red One Memorial. To the right, where you can see those dark pine trees, is the American Cemetery. So actually, we can say somehow the American Cemetery is overlooking the bloodiest sector of Omaha Beach. Talking about this memorial plate we've got here, you'll never guess what those blocks of concrete are. Those were made by the Germans to fix huge shingles crushers. So this is where they were crushing the shingles into small parts to be integrated in the concrete. The Germans eventually built a little train track all the way along the 4.2 miles of Omaha to deliver all the components and the concrete and the blocks and everything during the constructions of this section of the Atlantic Wall. And now let's come to this combat medic, Big Red One, 1st Division, 16th Infantry Regiment. Straight ahead of us, you see a red tile roof just above the right tall roof is the WN-60, which was used as the major site and HQ for the commander Pluscat, Major Pluscat, who was actually living in Port-en-Bessin. Despite he was a German soldier, he had a little house in Port-en-Bessin. So this is where they find out the landing was happening, and you may remember the scene of the movie The Longest Day. Z Common, and the famous Z Common is right there and not at Longsionnaire depicted in the movie. So we are now on Fox Red, the furthest spot of Omaha. We've been talking earlier about WN-60, but the bunkers you see here, this gun emplacement and the Tobruk at the back belongs to WN-61. So now let's take a look to what we call the shingle wall. So the shingle wall are made with those stubble you can see everywhere. Now you need to understand, no more a truck, a tank, or a bicycle could drive over a shingle wall. Unfortunately, the British developed in their Chinese concept a bobbin tank, which really would have been very useful here, but unfortunately we didn't have that tanks available for that beach. So very rapidly our men, after they landed, then they were taken in enfilade firing and direct firing from the bluff, found a kinds of refuge behind that bluff of shingles. But very rapidly the Germans started to fire their mortars, and just imagine when you've got a mortar shell 81 millimeter which comes and detonates on the flint stones you've got here, it creates stone shrapnel like razor blades, and this is the famous expression, when the shingle turns red. If you're ready for a new adventure, scan me.